Okay, Cinnamon and Watermelon Group, we are going to do lesson 77 today. Let's look here. Remember our vocabulary sentence. Number 20, the job required a consultant. Everybody say the sentence. Get ready. Everybody, what do we call a person who is hired for a special job? Good, a consultant. What word means needed? Yes, required. Very good. Now we're going to go into the lessons for our columns with words. So I want you to touch column 1. Word 1 is permitted. What word? Here's another way of saying you let somebody do something. You permitted somebody to do something. Here's another way of saying we let them swim. We permitted them to swim. Your turn. What's another way of saying we let them swim? Good. What's another way of saying we let them eat? Right. We permitted them to eat. Good job. Word 2 is immediately. What word? Word 3 is unless. What word? Word 4 is cottonwood. What word? Cottonwood trees are large trees. Every spring, cottonwood trees give off thousands of fluffy things that look like feathers or cotton. These are the seeds of the cottonwood trees. Let's read those words again the fast way. Word 1, what word? Word 2, what word? Word 3, what word? Word 4, what word? Good. Touch column 2. All these words have endings. Word 1, what word? Yes, objected. Word 2, what word? Yes, bumper. Word 3, what word? Yes, studied. Word 4, what word? Yes, confused. Very good. Touch column 3. Word 1, what word? Yes, fair. Word 2, what word? Yes, unfair. If rules are not the same for everybody, the rules are unfair. So here's another way of saying the rules were not the same for everybody. The rules were unfair. Your turn. What's another way of saying the rules were not the same for everybody? Good, the rules were unfair. Correct. Word 3, what word? Yes, cloth. Word 4, what word? Yes, cost. Word 5, what word? Yes, brand. Very good. Touch column 4. Word 1, what word? Yes, weak. Here's another way of saying someone is not strong. Someone is weak. When you're sick, you may feel very weak. Word 2, what word? Yes, list. Word 3, what word? Yes, bench. Word 4, what word? Yes, hood. Very good. Good job saying those words. If you would like to pause here, you can pause and say the words to yourself. Now we're going to go into the story. You are going to read the story to yourself. When Miss Crater say pause, pause your video. After you're finished reading, press play again to read the other half. Let's get ready. Pause. 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 Good job. The end of the story. Now I want you to go back to the top and follow along with Miss Cradle while she reads. Listen out for any errors that you may have caught on when Miss Cradle is reading. Also, I will be asking questions throughout the story. Touch the title and follow along with me. The chief listens to Bertha. Bertha was laying in the open van. Donna was next to Bertha. She was holding a cool wet cloth on Bertha's neck. She smiled at Bertha and asked, "How are you doing?" Bertha said, "Okay." The shadows were cool, but the sun was very bright and hot. Next to the van were a group of people. The chief asked why Bertha had come along. Maria was trying to explain. "Chief," she said, "Bertha can tell us exactly where the water comes from. I knew that you might not let her come along because she doesn't work for the state. So what I did was..." Suddenly, everybody seemed to be talking at once, and their shadows moved around. Question time. Stop here. The story doesn't tell the rest of what Maria said. Why not? Right, because everyone was talking at once. Good job. Back to the story. For one moment, Bertha could feel cool in the shadows. The next moment, she could feel the terrible heat of the sun. Question time. When would she feel cool? Right, when the shadows covered her. When would she feel hot? Good, when the shadows didn't cover her. Back to the story. Mr. Daniels was saying something about the state bringing kids out to an oil refinery. The man who was with Mr. Daniels kept asking, "What kind of trick is the state trying to pull?" Maria kept saying, "But she can tell us where the water." "Everybody be quiet," the chief said loudly and raised his hand. "Let Maria answer the question. How could that girl tell us where the water comes from?" "She smells," Maria said, and everybody looked at her. Question time. When you say she smells, you can mean two different things. One thing could be that she uses her nose. What's the other thing it could mean? Right, like she smells bad, she smells good, stuff like that. Now, if you heard somebody saying she smells, which meaning do you think the person could be using? She smells bad? Okay. Let's continue in reading the story. There was a long moment of silence. Maria said she smells with her nose. I don't mean she smells bad. She can smell things and tell where they are and where they are from. The chief looked at Bertha. He gave off a smell of somebody who was not afraid but a little confused. "Is that right?" she asked Bertha. "Can you really do that?" Bertha was feeling better now. She nodded her head. "What kind of things can you tell about me?" he asked. She took a deep breath. Your socks are brand new, she said. First time you wore them. The chief didn't say anything. He just looked at her. He studied her face. This is crazy. Mr. Daniels was saying, we're trying to run a business here. We don't have time. The chief held up his hand again. Bertha said to the chief, you live 2 miles south of town near some cottonwood trees. You have a dog? Okay, so let's stop here. Bertha just told 3 more things about the chief. Can you name them? Right. If you say he lives 2 miles south of town, that's 1. He lives near cottonwood trees. That's 2. And he has a dog. That's 3. Very good. Back to the story. The chief smiled and shook his head. That's amazing, he said. It's crazy if you ask me, Mr. Daniels said. We're trying to run a... The chief sat down on the van's bumper. Tell me, he said softly to Bertha, what does your nose tell about the water they're using here? Who cares what a kid says? Mr. Daniels objected. The chief didn't take his eyes off Bertha. Question time. Everybody, did the chief pay any attention to Mr. Daniels? No. Who was he paying attention to? Right, Bertha. Continue with me. The water comes from the creek. Bertha said it is not well water. How can she tell that, Mr. Daniels yelled. She's calling us liars. I'm not going to stand for that. I'm going. The chief did not take his eyes off Bertha. Are you sure? He asked. Yes, Bertha said. I can smell tiny plants in the water. These plants need sunlight to grow, so the water can't come from a well. Mr. Daniels was yelling louder. When did the state start using kids to do its business? The water is from a well, not from a creek. Suddenly, the chief turned around and pointed his fingers at Mr. Daniels. You be quiet. Do you understand? The chief turned to Maria. Get me 6 jars of water, 3 from the well and 3 from the creek. I'll have one of my men get them. Mr. Daniels said, no thanks, the chief said. Maria will get them. Mr. Daniels' face turned red. More next time. Before we leave, answer these 2 questions. Why do you think Mr. Daniels wants one of his men to get the water instead of Maria? Right, so he can try to trick Bertha. Why is his face turning red? Yes, because he is getting madder. Very good. That concludes our lesson 77 for today, and I will see you next time for lesson 78.